we just want to tidy up that finish position. What you're looking at in a good follow through or a good P9 is when the right arm's parallel with the ground. You're looking at a player who has extended fully, so he stretched the spine off, pelvis has come out of his forward tilt, arms are straight and still on the rib cage. He's maxed out the hip slide, so they've gone as far forward as they can. And he's made maxed out his turn as well. So he's gone, the player's extended fully, maxed out the hip slide, maxed out the turn.
It's quite a useful drill that I use quite regularly with players who've got limited time to practice at the driving range. Want to spend the time playing a little more golf rather than grinding on the range. So it's quite a simple drill. Here we have John, who has a number of niddly little issues, tends to retain the flex in the right knee a little bit too much, tends to drift off the ball a little bit too much. And then the main problem is the release point gets a little bit too far back, but the club not advanced enough at P6, and as a result tends to get the shaft a little bit too vertical at impact, has a few low point issues, and can get a club face that tends to either close down quickly if he rolls that right hand over, or he can leave the club face very open to the path, as in this instance when he gets that lead wrist flexing a little bit too much. So the goal of this drill is to try and reduce that little bit of movement off, encourage the trail leg to straighten, and more importantly tighten the radius of the swing and produce a situation at impact where the handle is in front of the club head. All we've done is laid the towel on the mat. There's no ball in this instance. John wants to practice, as a lot of you do, at home, out in the garden, etc, etc. And this drill's ideally suited if that is your desired way of improving your game. So what we've done is we've put the towel on the mat. We've asked John to set up with the leading edge of the golf club placed on the front edge of the towel. And then what I want him to do is make some swings and try and strike where I've put the yellow dot. So try and put the low point out in front of the front edge of the towel that's placed down on the mat. So as you'll see when I run this through, he doesn't actually perform it to perfection. This is early in the session, but what he does is certainly adequate in regards to making the changes visually and providing the feels necessary for long-term improvement. So the first thing we're going to see, and it's going to take him back to his original P4, where the trail legs sort of maintained its flex, the centre of the shoulders has drifted off the golf ball. In this drill we see the left shoulder working down much more. We see the ascent of the club head and the hands much more. Centre of the shoulder turn doesn't drift off anywhere near as much. Left shoulder works down more. All in all, a much better top of the backswing position, and the big bonus here is the amount at which that trail leg has extended. We've not asked him to do that, we've just asked him to hit out in front of the leading edge of this towel. So from there now, as he starts down, we get the left knee moving out in front of the left ankle more, and there's a marked difference in the position of the golf club at P6. You see there the release point much more advanced, getting the butt of the club midway or certainly towards the middle of the right thigh, tightening the radius, changing the condition of the right elbow much more into his side. Accumulator 4, the left arm is much more advanced. It's also in a better condition. The left arm's not as bent, so therefore the elbows are closer together, etc, etc. One of the big things that John mentioned before doing this session was that, and I can quote him on this, was that in 30 years he has never had the handle in front of the club head at impact. So when we run this through, I'll just match these up, and he starts to see the improvements at P7. This is his second swing doing the drill. You can see he makes contact with the towel, so it's not done exactly how we'd want him to do it, but it's done enough to start to encourage some better feels much more forward on the golf ball, different neck tilts, different shoulder alignments, different elbow conditions, etc. But the key thing for John was seeing that handle in front of the golf ball, much flatter left wrist, much more stable ball flight was the result of this. So we did this drill for a few minutes and then we hit some shots. So really handy drill if you want to start improving the mechanics. Familiarity is a big issue. The more you can do something, the more familiar you get with it. Practicing in an environment that encourages the correct move every time and gives you feedback when you do or do not do it is essential for your long-term improvement and also your understanding of your own mechanics and how they apply to your game. This particular drill is a drill that I use quite a lot with established players, particularly during the playing season, where you want to keep it to a minimum, the amount that a player is sort of thinking about the mechanics of the swing, and you want to get them out there just playing, hitting different shots to create changes in the mechanics, which is what this is all about, really. I think we all agree that we'd like to hit the ball pretty much in line. However, what we tend to do is we tend to bias towards one side of the spectrum or the other. So in this instance, on the left, I'm actually trying to hit a push. So in order to do that, I've moved the ball back in my stance, shifting the swing direction out to the right, as illustrated by the green arrow on the top right corner of the screen. On the right hand footage, I'm trying to hit a pull. So as a result, I've moved the ball well forward in the stance to align the swing direction to the left. The reason this is useful is that we tend to, as stated earlier, move towards one side of the spectrum or the other as the season progresses. So when the swing shifted too much to the right, we struggle with low point a little bit, tend to be a little bit too shallow coming into the golf ball, lots of pushes, hooks, overdraws, etc. When we shifted too much to the left, it tends to be more of a steep angle of attack, pulls, pull slices, pull hooks, etc., etc. So if we look at these two swings, let's say for instance on the right where I'm hitting the pull, we can see that the takeaway tends to be a little bit more picked up, club stays well out in front of the hands, whereas over on the left the takeaway tends to be shallower, club works inwards more, arms working inwards more. So straight away we're going to see two distinctly different swing directions from these two actions simply by moving the ball well back or well forward in the stance and trying to hit a certain type of shot. As the swing continues at P3, we see on the left the arms are angled in much more and the shaft is deeper, i.e. flatter, lower on the bicep than we see on the right. And obviously you can see with the sun shining, and I've got the summer gear on there, the backswing a little bit shorter, just punching some shots down whilst demonstrating this for the pupil. We see that if you wanted to increase the height of the left arm during the backswing, for instance, the drill on the right, the hitting the pull, ball forward in the grid, would be a really nice way of getting that change in there without really thinking too much about it. If the takeaway was too rolled, again, hitting the pull, ball forward in the grid would help reduce the amount of accumulated 3 roll, the arms working in too fast, etc., etc. So you can make some nice changes to the backswing without really thinking too much about what you're doing. Again, just hit balls down, get familiar with it. As the swing then progresses, the guy on the left we can see is obviously going to struggle with some pushes and overdraws. Club getting in well behind the hands at P6. Guy on the right, sweet spot's been pulled out in front of the hands. Right arm's straightening quicker, left arm's angled out more, body's opening up quicker, etc., etc. Going to tend to pull it, cut it. So, if you're spending some time where you're struggling with a low point, the swing's shifted out to the right, as per the left-hand footage, you need to spend a bit of time doing what the player on the right's doing, hitting some pulls. operate on the different side of the spectrum. So instead of continuously hitting shots, trying to figure out how to get the ball going straight, spend a little bit of time practicing in a different manner. Spend a little bit of time hitting a different shot to encourage some different feels, to encourage some different club face conditions. What I like about the push and the pull drill as much as anything is the fact that to hit both shots, the club face must match up with the path. And in my experience and observations watching people on the lesson tee and playing throughout the years, when the golf ball starts to misbehave, the face and the path are never matching up. Seems pretty obvious, but when we're out there practicing, we sometimes don't consider that. So in hitting a pull or hitting a push, we're trying to get the face and the path to match up, but we're actually setting out with an intention. That in turn starts to drive some changes in the mechanics, which starts to allow us to get some different feels, which starts to have an impact on the ball flight. So just a really useful drill to help players out who are more interested in hitting shots rather than thinking about the swing. And if that applies to yourself, great, no problems. When you're out there practicing on the range, spend some time hitting some purposeful pushes or some purposeful pulls, and start to allow the type of shot that you're hitting have an effect on the mechanics that you want to change.